Hello everyone, welcome to the science of sculpting, selecting the best diet macros percentage for resistance training. We aren't just discussing diets today. We are dissecting the three fundamental goals of physique transformation: cutting, bulking, and recompositioning. We are going to explore the topic with cold, hard numerical evidence. Before we can map out a strategy for cutting, bulking, or recompositioning, we must establish a foundation. Protein is the Lego brick of your body. When you lift weights, you create microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. To repair and overcompensate, a process scientists call muscle protein synthesis. Your body requires a steady stream of amino acids from dietary protein. Without sufficient protein, your resistance training is a demolition crew without a construction team. The International Society of Sports Nutrition, ISSN, has set a clear baseline. To build and maintain muscle, you need between 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For a 19 kilogram, 200 pounds individual, that's a target of 126 to 180 grams of protein daily. A fascinating 2024 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition confirmed that timing protein intake immediately before and after exercise, or waiting 3 hours, yielded identical muscle growth, proving that daily intake is the primary driver of hypertrophy, not the infamous anabolic window. Now, let's address the most physiologically daunting phase: the cut. This is a period of sustained caloric deficit, consuming fewer calories than your body expends. The goal of cutting isn't just to lose weight, it's to engineer a selective elimination of fat mass while fiercely defending the heart and skeletal muscle beneath. The physiological reality is stark. A landmark 2021 meta-analysis demonstrated that an energy deficit of just 500 calories can completely prevent gains in lean mass. When you are in a deficit, your body enters a catabolic state where muscle protein breakdown can outpace muscle protein synthesis. The way to reverse this tide is through what the ISSN calls aggressive protein fortification. To maximize the retention of lean body mass in resistance-trained subjects, under these hypocaloric conditions, intake should skyrocket to between 2.3 to 3.1 grams of protein per kilogram of fat-free mass per day. I'll translate that. Your protein intake during a cut should be significantly higher than your body weight in pounds. If you weigh 200 pounds, for example, you're likely targeting 230 to 250 grams of protein daily. This isn't just bro science. Bayesian meta-regression models in a 2025 study from Ruffalo, Trexler, and Helms found a greater than 97% probability of a linear dose-response relationship between daily protein intake and favorable fat-free mass changes during energy restrictions. That means the more protein you eat, up to the ceiling of about 3.1 gram per kilogram of fat-free mass, the more muscle you save. For the remaining calories, because you can't sustain life on salmon and whey protein alone, you must choose your physiological fuel. A 2019 review in Nutrition concluded that carbohydrate-restricted hypocaloric diets are highly effective for reducing fat mass, but they come with a performance caveat. On a severe cut, especially one where carbs are near ketogenic levels, under 50 grams per day, your maximal strength and volume tolerance can nosedive. Dietary fat, however, acts as a hormonal shield. A study in the International Journal of Sports Medicine found a direct positive correlation between dietary fat intake and serum testosterone levels in strength athletes. While excessively high protein to fat ratios can actually decrease testosterone. Therefore, the best cutting approach is a high protein, moderate fat, and calibrated carbohydrate model. Set protein at 2.4 to 3.1 gram per kilogram of fat-free mass, log fat at approximately 15 to 25% of total calories to support endocrine function, and let carbohydrates fill the remainder of your caloric deficit to fuel your training performance. The bigger the deficit, the higher the protein needed to plug the catabolic leak. Transitioning naturally from the scarcity of cutting, we arrive at the phase most dream about, the caloric surplus or bulking. If cutting is about defending muscle, bulking is about maximizing anabolic potential. The ISSN states that diets focused on acquiring lean mass are driven by a sustained caloric surplus to support increasing resistance training demands. However, the human body has a finite rate of muscle protein synthesis. So, force-feeding calories indiscriminately, popularly known as dirty bulking, doesn't speed up bricklaying. It just floods the warehouse with fat. A 2019 narrative review on bodybuilders in the off-season recommends a controlled hypercaloric diet of 10 to 20% above maintenance calories, aiming for a weight gain of just 0.25 to 0.5% of body weight per week. For a 200-pound individual, that's a mere half to 1 pound per week on the scale. Anything faster guarantees adiposity. A foundational 2017 review on overfeeding in the International Journal of Exercise Science revealed that in 25 overfeeding studies, protein overfeeding uniquely led to gains in fat-free mass without a corresponding spike in body weight or fat mass, whereas overfeeding on carbohydrates and fats occasionally drove fat gain. During bulking, protein needs are slightly lower than during cutting because the threat of muscle breakdown recedes. An intake of 1.6 to 2.2 gram per kilogram per day is sufficient for maximizing growth. Carbohydrates now step into the spotlight as the primary performance macronutrient. The narrative review specifically recommends consuming adequate carbohydrates, 3 to 5 grams per kilogram per day or more, to sustain the high volume glycolytic demand of hypertrophy training. Dietary fat should be held at moderate amounts, around 0.5 to 1.5 grams per kilogram per day, to avoid unnecessary energy density that would force calories too high. The winning formula for bulking is a moderate protein, high carb, and controlled fat approach. Your protein is set to 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram. Carbs are prioritized to fuel brutal leg days and facilitate recovery. Think of sweet potato, oat, rice. Fats are kept sufficient for health, but not excessive. This creates the ideal neuroendocrine and metabolic environment to fuel myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic growth. But what if you refuse to choose? This brings us to the holy grail, body recompositioning, the simultaneous loss of fat mass and gain of lean mass. For years, gene folklore decreed this was only possible for absolute beginners or those on pharmaceutical assistance. A 2020 review in a Strength and Conditioning journal shattered that dogma. Researchers including Christopher Brackett and Dr. Bill Campbell presented a substantial literature review proving that recompositioning is a very real phenomenon in resistance-trained individuals who manipulate two key variables: progressive resistance training and evidence-based nutritional strategies. The metabolic secret to recomposition lies in energy flux and protein pulsing. While it is true that a 500 calorie deficit impairs lean mass gains and calorie surplus induces bulking, recomposition operates in a delicate middle ground. A 2023 randomized trial demonstrated that during a marked energy deficit coupled with intense exercise, consuming a diet containing 2.4 gram protein per kilogram per day was significantly more effective than a lower protein intake for simultaneously gaining lean mass and losing fat mass. The body, when flooded with amino acids and a potent resistance training stimulus, can partition energy away from fat storage toward muscle repair. Carbohydrate and fat intake during recompositioning should oscillate around maintenance calorie. A strategy often employed is calorie cycling, eating slightly higher calories and carbohydrates on training days to fuel performance and anabolism, and a modest deficit on rest days to drive lipolysis. A 2021 study on low carbohydrate, high fat diets in trained middle-aged men found that these diets can increase basal testosterone, but their impact on body composition was not superior to non-ketogenic diets when protein was matched. Thus, for recomposition, do not fear carbohydrates. Use them as a tool. Keep protein extremely high, like cutting range, 2.3 to 3.1 gram per kilogram of fat-free mass, as suggested by ISSN for hypocaloric condition, or simply above 2.2 gram per kilogram. Cycle your carbohydrate around your training sessions and keep fat intake moderate to support the observed hormonal correlation with testosterone. We've traversed the scientific landscape together. Now let's synthesize these findings into a final actionable algorithm. The key to every physique goal is protein hierarchy, energy balance, and carbohydrate calibration. If cutting your shield is protein, crank it to 2.4 to 3.1 gram per kilogram of fat-free mass. Don't slash fats below 15% of calories, or you risk crushing your anabolic hormones. Use carbs sparingly merely to fuel the workout session itself and replenish glycogen just enough to fight another day. If bulking, your fuel is carbohydrates. Set protein at a sufficient but not excessive 1.6 to 2.2 gram per kilogram. Push carbs to 3 to 5 gram per kilogram. Keep fats moderate. Accept that scale weight must move slowly, no more than 0.5% of body weight per week, to ensure the mass you accumulate is contractile tissue, not metabolic baggage. And finally, if recompositioning, you must leave in the margin. Protein is your constant companion at the hypocaloric ceiling 2.4 gram per kilogram or higher. Cycle energy and carbohydrates around your training days. Train with the intensity of a lion and sleep like one too. Because recompositioning is metabolically demanding. You came here seeking a map, the hard numerical evidence. You now have it. Stop guessing. Weight your food. Track your data. And trust the dose-response relationship between protein and muscle that science has established with plus 97% probability. The barbell doesn't lie, and neither does the body composition scan. When you feed your body with precision. If this deep dive transformed your understanding, leave a comment, share your personal macro, subscribe, stay for the science, and until the next time, train hard, eat smart, and let data sculpt you.